Okay. Are we in sync now?
I don't know. Take a sip of coffee.
I am going to take a sip of coffee away from the mic.
I feel like so much pressure because you take this big exhale, like this is live and we've got to nail it right now.
Yeah. So this is actually take 3 for us recording this morning. Take 1 involved me not having a microphone all the way set up and not testing. Take 2 involved me not having the question pulled up on the screen. And like the whole point of doing this in the morning was to be like a little fresher, like have our minds a little more fresh than at the end of the day when we're exhausted from a day full of construction.
Yeah. It's our minds are not fresh.
Turns out I'm not fresh at any time in the day.
We just worked something like 30 hours of manual labor the last 3 days. So I think we're doing okay. The fact that we're able to walk, I just discovered I have a blister on my knee.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know was possible, but that's from tiling and being on my knees for a whole day.
Yeah. I don't know the actual math of how many square feet that we are tiling, but
Oh my
I
gosh,
think
it's like 3,000, babe.
It's probably somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 square feet of tile. And so like a tile.
Send help.
Yeah, tile project, a lot of crawling around on your hands and knees. And even with knee pads, it's not nothing. All right, but hey, we got a different kind of question that I actually thought was really good because it like plays up on this thing that we've been feeling this week of being a little bit out of sync. But let me read the question first. All right, ready?
I'm ready.
So, my SO, significant other, and I both live and work together, which means we are around each other 24/7. Sometimes it gets hard to keep a work/personal relationship, and the lines get a little blurred. How do you, as a couple and business partners, maintain that work/personal relationship so that things flow smoothly?
Okay. Honest answer, they don't always flow smoothly.
Yeah. That's why I thought this was like a good question because it does sort of beg that question of, oh, hey, are things always great? Are things always hunky-dory?
I don't know if I've ever heard you say that.
Hunky-dory? I don't know if I've ever said it either. It just came out of my mouth.
I was like, whoa.
That's because we're out of sync and I just pull words out that
Yeah.
you've never heard me say before.
I think it's difficult when you work with your spouse because, at least for us, the business tends to bleed over into every aspect of our lives. So we never just sit down and have a dinner where we don't talk about honeymoon.
Very rarely. Like that would be a good test actually, if we could like have
The subject off limits.
Yeah. What kind of punishment could we set up to where like you get an electric shock if you mention work talk at the table?
I don't know, but there's been times where I'm
Put $1 in a jar.
I'm definitely frustrated when I don't want to talk about honeymoon and I feel like it gets brought up or you open the app to see what sales are and you just mention what it is when I'm not in the mood to think about it anymore.
Yeah. I remember reading sometime about how I think they're talking about creative people. Like one of the things that makes quote unquote creative people creative is they don't really see lines in different sort of categories. And so they're always making connections sort of laterally across categories. And I feel like that's how my brain kind of works. I'm not like classically creative. I'm not a musician. I'm not a visual artist or something like that. I can't dance. But like I'm always blurring the lines. And so like thinking of like, oh, this is work talk. It's like, no, those are our lives.
Yeah.
We're dealing with people.
Yeah.
People are relationships. Relationships are life and energy and what you get up for and what you stay up for and what you push through for. That's your life. And maybe that's like convenient for me because I don't really understand how all the money aspect of things works.
He's just blissfully unaware. No,
Yeah.
but if I was giving advice, I do think that we tend to need some alone time Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you went on a trip last week, and I mean, it was a work trip, it was a roasting trip, but we had a few days apart. I'm going to Indy today to pick up a light that I ordered because I didn't want to pay $200 to have it shipped.
Yeah, it's insane, insane. Pay like $60 in gas instead.
And lose
And
5 hours of work time.
yeah. No, no, like there was something about how you said that came up for me. Like you said, alone time. And then you went into the work trip I had last week. But it wasn't alone time necessarily for me. Like I was around people that entire time. So there's like alone time and then there's separate time.
I think it's separate time that
Yeah.
we need, especially, I know you get different things from different friend groups, and because we're together all the time, it can get, it's just hard in a different way. It's like you need that time away to appreciate each other again.
Yeah, but then I think what we noticed at the end of that trip. Okay, so I maybe misspoke. I did get some alone time, like when Ethan, our roaster, he traveled with me, so we shared a plane ride together and a hotel together and some car time together. But during the plane ride, we were mostly like not talking and conversing, got the plane noise and headphones and whatever else. But I remember feeling that good sort of separate alone time where I was sort of with my thoughts and not pulled into all the day-to-day things that happen when you're connected to your device and you're getting Slack notifications and text messages and phone calls, and you're aware of some place that might need you in that moment. It's like, it's okay if it doesn't matter if it needs me. The whole place could burn down and I'm 30,000 feet in the air and wouldn't be able to do anything about it. And I felt like a level of clarity and peace that I was really excited to like bring back to you that day, like when we were going to have a blessed reunion.
Yeah.
And
we were like, let's not rush.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
I was like, foot on the gas. Let's get this thing done. I'm ready to birth the baby. I'm tired.
Well, it wasn't
And
just,
so our energies were just really different.
but we also had the triathlon. So we did
That's something positive we did.
it was positive, but it was. So we should talk about how we took that on, because you're literally trying to get your body, your mind, your soul, like in a space to where you are performing as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Yeah.
From when they say go to when you did the finish line.
Yeah, I feel like we just talked about a lot of things that are a struggle, but I will say this was something that we did as a couple that was outside of honeymoon. So outside of work, we decided to, so I, like 10 years ago, used to do triathlons and loved them. And so I think because I loved them and I knew that Zac was an athlete and he's in good shape, that he could handle it. So did I ask you or did I just sign us up?
I think you just signed us up, but like that, I was good with that.
Yeah. So anyway, we had...
You had a blank check with that one. I think I said, like, if you ever want to do it, babe, just do it and I'll do it with you.
So ideally we would have had a lot of, training time where we were working out together. It didn't end up playing out that way very well.
We did some of it.
We did some...
We swam together.
We did some workouts together, but we also ended up doing some of them separately just because of time and...
Well, there's also like a weird preference thing for us where for bike riding in particular, you have a very specific place that you love to ride, and I have a very specific place that I love to ride, and they are not the same place.
They are not the same.
So that's interesting because it's like it is a shared activity, but for you really like to drive to a spot to start.
Where I feel safe.
Yeah. Well, and that's,
because I just don't feel safe driving here or riding in our city. I've had bad experiences.
It's not a very bike-friendly city, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you go out to the country, and you've got a place where you start, a place where you finish.
It's actually where I did my first triathlon, so it's very nostalgic for me.
Yeah. And I am just like, I need to fit a ride into my busy day, so I'm going to ride from our driveway to wherever I can get to, and usually I'll drive ride to our Newburgh location, do some sort of maintenance task that needs doing, and then, check in with the team, get a cup of coffee, say hi to a customer, and then head back and zoom,
Yeah.
zoom, zoom, and hurry into the next thing.
And I make a whole hour and a half thing out of it because I have to drive there and drive back.
But like trying to get back to the question of how we get back in sync or not in sync, it's like there's something about our energy together that when we're on and connected, it's really, really good. And it bleeds into personal and work at the same time. But when we go so hard that we hit a wall, if one of us hits that wall first and the other one wants to keep going, man, that's a weird tension that we've really felt this week.
Yeah, I guess it's trying to recognize where your spouse is or your significant other, SO,
Your SO.
as you put it, and I
You
didn't
get-
know what that meant.
I didn't put it that way.
And be willing to have some grace that they may need some separate time. And it doesn't necessarily, like, I think I tend to think if you need separate time, it's because something I did. Like, it's my fault.
Like I am rejecting you.
Yeah. It feels a bit like a rejection.
Yeah, no, I can see that being, I can see it now that you said it, but I didn't see it that way this week, which might
Well,
explain why.
Yeah. I mean, this week, I've just kind of put my head down and recognized that we aren't necessarily on the same page, but the job needs to get done,
Yeah.
and I'm willing to get the job done.
Yeah, and anytime you take on a project of the scope that we're taking on, I think that there are sacrifices in other areas of your schedule and your rituals. We were talking about how this time last year we had sort of integrated a new ritual into our lives of hiking together with the dog.
Yeah.
And
When we had that beautiful September, like the best weather we've ever had.
yeah, we have the opposite of that right now.
Yeah, and let me just state for the record, we are working in a building that has no air conditioning, and it has been 100 degrees this entire week. So no wonder we're not in happy moods and
Yeah.
like really driving with each other.
Yeah. I mean that's definitely part of it. But I think for me, the lack of that sort of focused investment in something that wasn't hurried.
Yeah.
I'm feeling its lack this week. Like if
Yeah.
we could just carve out, an hour and a half to like hike with the dog, I wonder if on the other side of that, we would end up being more quote unquote efficient in the things that we have to get done.
Yeah, and I always look at it as a way of, I think you challenged me early on in our relationship once when I was like, I just don't have time for that. But really, you do have time. It's just a matter of, do you want to wake up earlier? Where do you want to prioritize your time?
Yeah.
And
Or you have to maybe cut something out.
I think if the weather is better next week, we should go on a hike.
Oh yeah. No, I think
Because we have been just not prioritizing any task outside of this construction project.
yeah. Well, because you get into that mode where you realize that kind of time is money, and the faster that we can get open, the sooner we can get that bank account going the other direction as it slowly, depletes and estimates get higher and
Yeah.
all of that.
So anyway, I would just encourage you to try to find some time that you guys reconnect that's outside of the norm. If you normally just sit and work at the same kitchen table together, that you
Mix it
maybe
up.
mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think my response to this question would be recognizing when you do have that sort of separate time. Really what's coming up for me is like trying to think through like something you said just a little bit ago about feeling like me pulling away was a response to you. Maybe just being like really clear about that, saying like, hey, I don't want to be away from you, but since the circumstances like require that, I'm going to lean into it. And instead of like bemoaning,
But what
like,
if you want to be away from them?
but if you want to be away from your significant other,
I mean,
I think that's fine.
That's part of it. Like if you're together working in the same house all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's codependence, right?
Right. But it's trying to somehow not hurt the other person's feelings when you need some separate time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think communicating
Yes,
and
I
checking
think
in.
that's what I was going to say. I would say like communication up front instead of just having the other person pull away because their thoughts are going wild with, well, what did I do that you don't want to be here with me all day?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and today, as we're figuring out how we're going to tackle the day with work and personal, it looks like you might be taking this road trip and you'll be by yourself because there's work that needs to get done. That's sort of my role, my responsibility. I'm the tile guy. There's so much tile. So I'm going to take a bite out of the elephant and do some tiling. I won't be by myself. We've got some people that are going to be helping, but I will be away from you, and you will be away from me, and you'll be alone. So it'll be separate and alone, and I'll be separate and not alone. Are you looking forward to it?
It'll be so quiet.
What are you gonna do?
I'm not gonna listen to podcasts.
That's insane.
I'm gonna drive in silence.
Wow.
That's what I want to do.
Well,
And then when I get there, I want to find a coffee shop, and I think I'm going to go to that one you recommended and check it out, and then grab the light and turn back around so I can get some work done this afternoon.
Oh my gosh, my meaning making just totally flicked on when you said grab the light. It's like, oh, she's gonna tap into the spirit, to the soul.
That is one thing. I'm so exhausted that I can't be creative right now.
Yeah. I think you need
which
this.
is what I need to do because I have to decorate the place, but I'm not in a creative space at all. I'm just like, I got the tile done.
Yeah. Well, we were apart. We came back together. We had a great.
I was gonna say, how did you like your triathlon?
Yeah, the triathlon was amazing. I was seriously ready to do another one.
He asked if we could do another one this weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think my body's ready.
I felt so good after that triathlon. I literally probably could have ran another 2 miles. And I felt great the next day. I went to the gym and like lifted weights and then 2 crazy heavy days of construction. Yeah, but then yesterday I hit a wall.
You hit a wall yesterday.
But in terms of the triathlon, I do think that it would not be as fun for me if I wasn't doing it with you.
So do you want to do another one?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of the end of the season. It'll probably be next year.
But it was better than I expected, and so you were right. And I think finding those things to do together that are separate from work, like you said, would be advice. And then when you find your time away from each other, use it. Like I fully expect that you're going to get something out of this alone time. I'm going to remember how I felt getting back from the trip. And when we come back together, we'll be ready to rock and roll and dance again to whatever song happens to be playing.
Whatever song.
You don't like that?
What song is it?
Let's find out. This episode of the Honeymoon Coffee Company podcast is brought to you by the Americano. With 2 espresso shots in a regular and 4 shots in a large, the Americano can definitely get the job done, whatever that job might be. Unless it's sleeping, I wouldn't try that. Legend has it that American soldiers in World War II didn't care for the double-shot dopios that their European allies favored, so they added water to the mix to better resemble the drip coffee they loved from back home. The Americano was born and has been loved now for generations. Available hot or iced, make a date to come try the Honeymoon Americano soon. Cheers! Hey, just Zach here for a minute. Turns out that doing a podcast and building a 4,000 square foot multi-tenant building and raising a family and anything else we may decide to get up to. Oh yeah, we ran a triathlon too. Turns out that is a lot to try and fit into 2 lives. And we are going to start moving to a 1 segment per episode format for our podcast here moving forward. So you're listening to this in what would be the 2nd segment. And this is going to be quick and tight because it's only going to be this little disclaimer. I'm actually sitting in what will be my office in what is very much a construction zone on the west side of Evansville, looking out the window, seeing the wind blow through the leaves and trying to imagine the peaceful, calm, collected final state that this building will be in at some point, and knowing that this season is going to involve us putting our heads down and working 7 days a week while we have sunlight, and even when we don't have sunlight, in order to get this open as soon as possible. So with that in mind, I hope you'll forgive the shorter episodes. We're going to try and keep the same frequency. We do appreciate all the questions that have come in. Again, if you have a question for Jessica or myself or our business, it's honeymooncoffeeco.com/podcast. You can submit a question, and we will answer all of the ones that we haven't covered yet in future episodes. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show this week. If you'd like to learn more about Honeymoon Coffee Company, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you'd like to submit a question for a future episode, visit honeymooncoffeeco.com/podcast. This podcast was produced by Wally Opus with editing by Brooklyn Hoffititz, music composed by Sam Cuban, and project management by me, Wesley Luttrell. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again soon.
So Jessica and I are on our road trip here to Nashville, and we were re-listening to the first segment of the podcast to kind of get us in the mindset, if we can, like what the listener would be listening to get into the second one. And I forgot that I said, what song. I said something like, hey, we're going to get together and dance. And I said, what song is going to be playing? And this is what Jessica chose.